You can still feel the weight transfer heading over onto that rear tyre. The front end grip in the RCZ is really good. It just hangs on, but can it beat a car like the 370z around a lap? Stunning to look at and great to drive, the Peugeot RCZ has always been a fantastic coupe. But this car, the new RCZ-R, takes it a step further. It's got more power, revised suspension and bigger brakes, and it costs just over £30,000. But can it be as much fun on the track and a lap as quickly as a 3.7 litre V6 rear-wheel drive coupe like the Nissan 370z Nismo?
With its beefy body kit, the Nismo 370z costs £10,000 more than a standard Z. You only get 16 horsepower more, and that shaves the 0 to 60 time by 1/10 of a second. But you do get a new exhaust and suspension lowered by 10mm. Costing just over £5,000 more than a standard THP 200 RCZ, the R has a completely reworked engine that produces 266 brake horsepower and puts that power on the road with a limited slip diff, totally unique suspension and upgraded brakes.
So, why are we starting with a 370z as a comparison to an RCZ? Well, the RCZ is trying to be a really engaging motorsport-inspired coupe, and if it needs to do that, it needs to take on some of the best cars out there, which 370z ticks a lot of boxes. It's rear-wheel drive, V6 engine, manual gearbox, proper muscle car, proper driver's coupe. So, how's it going to compare on track? What's it going to be like on track? So, we'll start off in the Nissan. Now, then this is the Nismo version, so like the RCZ, it's been tuned with motorsport inspiration. So this car has got 339 horsepower, 16 more than the standard car. Suspension's also 20% stiffer, and when you head on track you can notice that the body movement is better controlled than a standard 370z, so through there, pretty good change of direction. Now obviously being rear wheel drive, that adds an element to it. You can, as I'll show at this next tight corner, you can really change the trajectory of the car with the throttle. You can really play around with the Nissan, it's quite playful. Still a few wet patches, so you can get the car sliding on the exit of some of these tighter corners. Down the back straight here, we're just up to the top of third gear before we hit the brakes. There's still quite a lot of weight in the car. It still feels a heavy car, so you can feel that weight of the heavy 6-cylinder engine in the nose, and you can still feel the weight transfer heading over onto that rear tyre. So you can play with it and stuff and slide it around, but it's still a relatively heavy car. The steering's quite heavy. Body control's not too bad through that high-speed corner. Okay, so we've got some heat in the tyres, so let's try a smooth, quick lap in the Nissan. And we're going to come around and start flying that now. So out of the last corner, trying to keep it smooth. Second gear up to third, across the line now. And heading into the first corner, just stay in third gear, just a little bit greasy still into that corner. Just about trying to roll speed through here, keeping the momentum up. This is quite a challenge for the Nissan. It's quite a lot of change of direction going on there. A little bit of understeer, the weight scrubbing on the front end of the car. Up to fourth, down the back straight. About 110 before we hit the brakes. Into the chicane. Brakes are quite strong, but again, it's got to haul some mass down into there. Try not to get too much oversteer on the exit. Hook it up on the exit, third gear. It's pretty good fun, I have to say. Top of the revs in third, hard on the brakes, trying to get the car turned in. You can feel the weight again, just get it turned in there. A little bit of oversteer on the exit. Then through here, trying to keep it smooth on the way in, a little bit of oversteer on the way in. Trying not to get too sideways, try to keep it under control. Works its tyres pretty hard. Fourth gear into the high-speed S's. Quite physical through there, wrestling it through there. Over 100 on the exit. Down through the gears, down to second. A little bit of ABS intervention. Picks up a bit on the throttle as you go over the bump. Into the last corner. And third gear. And across the line.
The rear-wheel drive Nissan lapped our circuit in 1 minute 13 seconds. But how will the front-wheel drive Peugeot compare?
Well, I've got to say, in first impressions, it's up there in terms of driver engagement. It's completely different, obviously. For starters, you only got a 1.6 litre engine, but it's really punchy, torquey in the low down in the revs. And it goes into another second load of sort of hyperdrive from 5.5 all the way up to the over 6,000 red lines. So it feels very, very quick for a 1.6 litre car, which is not surprising. This is actually the most powerful 1.6 litre production engine in the world now, so it's really quite rapid on these straights. Gearbox is really nice. Now the one thing you do notice about this car, it's got very motorsport inspired lessons in the suspension. So the camber, caster, the toe-in, the renting roll bars, the spring rates are all sort of fairly extreme, and that means it turns in really sharply. What you do have to do is make sure you get some heat in the rear tyres. With the stability control turned off and cold rear tyres, it's actually quite an edgy car. You can't just throw it into the corner, you've got to get heat into those rear tyres, otherwise you'll be dealing with some oversteer if you don't. But through the high-speed change of direction here, it's really good. Positive steering, body control's really good. It's a proper little car, this. But can it beat a car like the 370Z around a lap? So we're going to come and find out. It's quite short gearing, so you're doing a lot of gear changing around this lap, which is a bit of a disadvantage. Obviously, every gear change takes a bit of time. So third gear as we go across the start line, just into the limiter in third. Now we're going to stay in third here, just try and roll the speed into the corner. Very little understeer, given it's a front-wheel drive car. The turning through there is brilliant. Just again, getting the power down. That diff, it's got a Torsen diff. It's really good. You can really get the power down on the exit of the corners. You feel it working. Up to fifth along here. At 110 before hard on the brakes. So the entry speed into chicane is not that different from the Nissan. Hard on the power on the exit. Again, that diff working really, really well. Up to third. Up to fourth. Up to 90 miles an hour. Hard on the brakes, down to third gear. Got to watch the entry here compared to the Nissan. Now the rear tyres are up to temperature, it's all good. Getting into these long corners, obviously normally quite hard work for a front wheel drive car, but the front end grip in the RCZ's really good. It just hangs on, really get on the power on the way out of the corners. And through this high speed S, it's fantastic on the way in, just a little lift in the middle. Little bit of reaction from the rear, but nothing too bad. Hard on the brakes, down through the gears at the second. Really good into these technical corners. Have to come up to third there, unfortunately, back down to second. Into the last corner, trying to keep it neat. Third gear and across the line.
Incredibly, the front-wheel drive 1.6 litre Peugeot ran the Nissan very close, recording a lap time of 1 minute 13 seconds, 0.4.
It's been a fascinating day testing two very different coupes. Front-wheel drive 4-cylinder turbocharged against rear-wheel drive 6-cylinder normally aspirated. These cars couldn't be more different, yet they recorded lap times just 0.4 of a second apart around our test track. The Nissan was faster, but there's no losers here. The Peugeot is the fastest front-wheel drive car we've ever tested and delivers amazing performance for a 1.6 litre engine, and it's also more fun to drive than ever before. But the Nissan is packed with character too, which just goes to prove if you're on the market for a fun coupe, you're spoilt for choice.
Click on the video windows to watch our track battle of the Golf GTI versus the Renault Sport Megane, or the Porsche Cayman versus the Alfa 4C. Click the red play icon to watch our very latest video, or the Auto Express logo to subscribe to our channel.